We have about 22 million unique visitors a month. The site was founded on May 5th, 2009, and we had as a tagline, a sort of self-deprecating tagline that said, delivering news and opinion since May 5th, 2009. Because, you know, we were the new kid on the block. And it started as just a homepage, which was a combination of everything, always politics, culture, news aggregation and curation, and interesting voices, the blogging, the collective blog. And the original motivation for me was I could see how the debate was moving online. But so many interesting voices, so many people I admired and loved reading were not online, and I thought would never be unless we created a platform that made it easy for them. You know, I came from traditional media. You know, I've written 12 books, I've been a journalist, so I was not a techie. I was not a natural for what the Huffington Post became. So my motivation was, I want Arthur Schlesinger online. In fact, Arthur Schlesinger was the first person I invited to blog. I remember calling him, and he said to me, what's a blog? I started explaining, and he said to me, let me take you to lunch, and you can tell me. And he took me to lunch at the Century Club. I don't know if you've been there, but I think he and I were the youngest people there. And then I was explaining to Arthur about blogging, and he said to me, you know, I barely use a computer. I said, don't worry, you can fax me your blog. So my whole point was I wanted their voice there. I didn't care how I got them, you know, fax, carrier pigeon. In fact, I remember 2 weeks after we had launched, President Bush at the time, gave a speech that included a lot about the Yalta Agreement. And within 20 minutes, I had a fax from Arthur Schlesinger disputing what the president said, and he had been at Yalta. So for me, that was like what I had hoped for. He would never have done that. He could, of course, have written it for the New York Times, but he wouldn't have taken the time. He knew he was at the end of his life. He was writing his final book. You know, he wouldn't have taken the time to deal with the New York Times, get it published, be edited, all that stuff. So it was really a platform that would both bring in interesting voices of people who are established but didn't have the platform, would never start their own blog, to be a part of the online debate, and also be a place where new voices, whom nobody had heard of, would be able to come and, in a way, audition for things. We have a lot of our bloggers who've gotten book deals, record deals. Suddenly they're there and people discover them. We now have over 3,000 bloggers with a password, which means they can post directly themselves. And then we get thousands of submissions from people whom our editors go through and sift through. One more thing about the evolution.
Sure.
So a year after we launched, we created a lot of new verticals. So the Huffington Post now has the homepage that includes everything, but then the vertical pages that are media, entertainment, business, style, living, green, comedy, are constantly growing. We're about to launch technology, sports, and books. And then a year later, we started our local expansion. The first city was Chicago. And in a couple of weeks, we're launching New York. And then we're hoping to be in 12 other cities throughout this year.
So you use this magic word, platform, and I think that's a great term. So the motivation for people to contribute is pretty straightforward. You get a platform to present your views to a broad audience, and you make it effortless. I blog occasionally for the Huff, as it's called. It is effortless. You create your blog, and then you hit the save button, and then I think does a human look it over just to make sure I'm not completely lost my mind?
Well, first of all, if we thought you would lose your mind, you would not have a password.
Oh, okay.
So that's the first sort of editorial selection is who gets the keys to the car, so you can blog at any time. The second editorial selection is putting you on the homepage. Whenever you post, you are one of our star bloggers who gets immediately put on the homepage. So you get maximum visibility. Then the third tier is our communications people who will get your post out to the media. And so if you wanted to do media, it would be a way for you to go do shows around your blog. Some people want to do that, some don't. So the process, we have about 65 people who work at the Huffington Post. So it's not all automated. But as you know, and thank you so much for blogging, you can do it at any time when the mood strikes you. And we make it really easy. People can literally call and dictate a blog. Ari Emanuel, for example, the Hollywood agent and my agent, I remember, just to give you an example, when there was this incident when, what was his name, who got arrested for, and they found alcohol and drugs and Hollywood alcohol.
Isn't that the letter Z or the N?
I'll remember in a minute. But the point is that Hollywood was about to give him a pass. And I remember Ari called and said, no, we can't give him a pass. Hollywood should stand up for that. And he literally dictated a blog within 10 minutes. It was posted immediately. And it turned around what happened after that. So that's really the other motivation. Since a lot of people in LA drive, they can get on the phone literally and dictate a post. So the idea is to make it easy, effortless, and get interesting voices online in real time.
Now you've got some really interesting projects coming out of this, the Citizen Journalism Project, right? Eyes and Ears, is that what it's called? Could you tell us a bit about that?
Well, in terms of collaboration, which is the theme of today, during the election, the last election, we launched a citizen journalism project called Off the Bus. And the idea was that while most journalists are on the bus and they get, the official line from the candidates and his team, or her team, our citizen journalists from anywhere in the country could report on what was happening on the ground. And we ended up with 12,000 people sending us stories, sending us videos, sending us pictures, including a few who became stars, like Mayhill Fowler. You may remember she broke what became Bittergate. She happened to be at a fundraiser in San Francisco where Barack Obama was speaking, and he talked about bitter people clinging to their guns and violence. Mayhill posted it. It was immediately everywhere. And so was Mayhill, who continued to break other stories and got her own New Yorker profile. Now she's a woman in her 50s, I think she may be 60 now, who had spent 15 years trying to get something she had written published and failing. And suddenly, through Off the Bus, she has this great career ahead of her. And after the campaign ended, we changed the name of Off the Bus, since this was sort of a campaign name, and called it Eyes and Ears. And we do constant sort of requests to our community for different things. When the tea parties were organized around America, we had thousands of people sending us pictures, video, reports all around the country. Again, that's where citizen journalism has an advantage over traditional journalism. The New York Times wasn't going to deploy 2,000 journalists around the country. So as a result, they would get maybe an in-depth analysis or reporting of particular tea parties, but we got a huge overview. Or we produced an interactive map of GM dealerships that were about to close down all around the country again. And endless stories. And of course, people just send us stuff. I don't know if you remember the tape of an analyst at Morgan Stanley, an analyst call at Morgan Stanley, where the chairman said, let's stop calling them bonuses, let's call them retention awards going forward. That will be better. Somebody who was on the call sent it to us. So it's a great opportunity for whistleblowers, too, to get material.
Okay,
remember
just
that.
One more quick thing. The Investigative Journalism Fund. Now, this is founded by foundations. Quickly, what's that about?
So increasingly, the Huffington Post is hiring reporters, because we also, as well as having the original blogs and the aggregation, we want to be doing original reporting and breaking stories. But also, we recognize that the business model for that has not yet been created. We see what's happening with traditional journalists, We would like to have ideally hundreds of reporters covering a lot of different things. So we launched the Huffington Post Investigatory Fund, which is going to be a for-profit, not-for-profit operation. So we put in money, but also we had funding from the Atlantic Philanthropies, from the Schumann Foundation, and now individuals are coming in. And it's going to be a fund that will keep growing, and through which we can basically both hire people full-time, but also it's an opportunity to get laid-off journalists on a contract basis to cover specific stories. So we just hired Larry Roberts to be the executive editor, who was the investigative editor at the Washington Post. He's a terrific resume, and he's going to oversee what will become an experiment that I really believe in. But the result of it being not for-profit, for-profit is that everything we post will be open source, which means at the same time that the Huffington Post posts it, any publication can post it. So we have no proprietary advantage. But that's our way of contributing to journalism, because I think the debate has to shift from how do we save newspapers to how do we save journalism, no matter what platform journalism appears on. And also, we will be able to focus on stories that we consider important. Right now, for example, for this year, the fund is focusing exclusively on the economic crisis.